Okay, so in this video, we are going to go over some of the more challenging types of literal equations. Don't forget that in class today, I went over 2 methods on how to solve literal equations. The first strategy that you could use was factoring. We used this when the variable was in more than one place. So when we had something like VR plus QR equals H, and we were solving for R was in 2 places, so we tried to factor out an R to be leaving us left with V plus Q inside of the parentheses. We were able to do this because factoring is basically just undoing the distributive property. The second method that I taught you today was to clear the denominator. Clearing the denominator is helpful because it gets the variable out of the denominator. So if I had something like Q over T plus H equals G, no matter which variable I was solving for, the first strategy would be to multiply both sides of the equation by my denominator, thus eliminating the denominator to make our problem simpler to solve. I'm now going to go over 2 examples that we didn't get to in class that might help you on your homework tonight. The first example was m equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1, in which we were solving the equation for x1. So immediately, I know my first step is to clear the denominator. That's always going to be my first step anytime I have a denominator. So I multiply both sides of the equation by my denominator to give me the new equation x2 minus x1 times m equals y2 minus y1, because my denominators have been canceled out. So the problem here is that x1 is inside of the parentheses. To get into the parentheses, I have to get rid of the m outside of the parentheses first. So I'm going to divide both sides of the equation by m. So I'm left with x2 minus x1 equals y2 minus y1, all divided by m. Now to get x1 by itself, I'm going to subtract x2 from both sides, and I'm left with negative x1 equals y2 minus y1 divided by m minus x2. To make this a positive x1, I'm just going to change the sign of each term in the equation. So my final answer ends up being negative y2 minus y1 divided by m plus x2. In this problem, I'm trying to get a formula for s. You can notice that the s is in 2 places. Anytime the variable is in more than one place, we know we're going to need to factor. The problem is that s isn't on the same side of the equation. So I'm going to have to move some stuff around in order to get s on the same side of the equation so that I can factor. I'm going to add 4r to both sides so that I can get s alone on one of the sides. My new equation is 2rs equals 4s minus 5 plus 4r. The next thing I need to do is get rid of the s that's on this side. I need to move it to the other side so I can factor. I'm going to subtract 4s from both sides. So my new equation is 2rs minus 4s equals negative 5 plus 4r. So now I can factor. Now that my s terms are on one side, I can factor the s out of both terms. So I'm left with s parentheses 2r minus 4 equals negative 5 plus 4r. The trick to see if you factored right is to distribute and see if you got back to where you started. S times 2r gives me my 2rs. S times negative 4 gives me my negative 4s. So that tells me I factored correctly. Now it's easy because s is being multiplied by 2r minus 4. All I have to do to solve is divide both sides by 2r minus 4, giving me my final answer of s equals negative 5 plus 4r divided by 2r minus 4. Time for super awesome homework question preview time. I don't know. So in order to get started on this one, my first step is always the same if I have a denominator, and that's to multiply both sides of the equation by that denominator. Keep it in parentheses so that we can tell that d1, d2 is multiplying both sides. My denominators cancel out, and I'm left with d1 minus d2 in parentheses times t equals d1, d2. d2 is in two different places, so I need to get it to the same side. Problem is that t is blocking me from doing it. T is blocking me from getting d2 to one side of the equation. So I need to distribute the t in order to be able to get into that d2 inside the parentheses. So I get t d1 minus t d2 equals d1 d2. Now I have the d2's accessible to me in two places. So I'm going to add t d2 to both sides of the equation so that I can get the d2's to one side so that I can factor. So I'm left with t d1 equals d1 d2 plus t dt, which I'm then going to factor so I can finish up solving this problem. There's your homework preview problem. I hope this video was helpful for you.